Welcome to Team DataFam Tableau User Group meeting number 48. This tug works a bit differently to others because we meet at times when the presenter's available, which is why we have meetings at all different times of the day and the week and everything. All meetings are recorded and they're all available on YouTube, but I'll talk about that later on. If you want to present, please get in touch. We're running a little bit low on TC25 presentations, but I think there's one coming up soon. And if you need to get in touch with me about either feedback or if you want to present or any other details that you need, please email me at team.datafam@gmail.com. Today we have Naveen talking about transforming data into narratives, the art of science and data storytelling. So that sounds very interesting. I'll swap it over to you and you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Thanks for the overview and also providing the background of your sessions. As you know, we being, I think most of them I am assuming that we are the data professionals, right? So most of the time we focus on like analysis and then doing the modeling, and then we go in above and beyond technical depth to deliver the things for our business partners. But as we all know, the real challenge and the real opportunity is turning the analytics work into stories, and those stories will help to drive the decisions, which ultimately will inspire the actions that the technology team does. And today, I think primarily we'll explore about both the art and science behind the data storytelling and how combining these two disciplines can definitely expand and influence as a data practitioner. So I think it's primarily the agenda. I think we already have the introduction, and then I think I'll be walking through the high-level gaps between the analysis and the action, and then the overall. After that, like we'll be having some time for the overall Q&A discussions, right? So the first slide talks about primarily the challenge we face with the data storytelling. When we think about the work, as we know, data teams produce machine learning models, deep analysis, dashboards, and whatnot, like technical insights. It's easy to assume that good work automatically leads to good decisions. That's what we live in. But the reality is that brilliant analysis does not equal to organizational impact. That's the heart of the challenge we face in the current world. And we uncover insight hidden and inside millions or billions of data points. And we also build statistical data models that capture signals and no human could spot manually. We design dashboard that surface the exact KPI leaders need. But what we do is at many of these insights never drive any actual change. Primarily, we get trapped into the data sets, reports, and dashboards that stakeholder don't have the time to most part to explore. And the gap between finding insight and acting on that insight is one of the biggest barriers in the modern organizations. And this gap exists because the insight alone is not enough, and people don't act on data, they act on the stories we built around the data. That is the theme of this concept. And data storytelling is what closes the gap. It is the translation layer between the analysis and the action. Without actually translating, even the most powerful insight remains invisible and misunderstood. These primarily these 3 points, right? As we see, we have like lost in translation, data overload, and then the more analysis leads to paralysis. So for example, like when we say lost in translation, this is when the insights are technically correct, but practically gets invisible. Dashboards are built and then reports get shipped, and even the notebooks are documented, but the people who needs to understand the insight never actually receive it in a digestible form. And this is one of the classic scenario where analysts know something is important, but the business doesn't. And when we come to data overload, we are producing more dashboards, more metrics, more charts than ever, but it doesn't. But the volume is not the value, right? execute don't need, like, for example, they don't need like the 40 characters of for one chart that matters. When we give to the stakeholders what gets overwhelmed, we don't want to overwhelm with the data, but they need to look into what is needed for the prioritization. Uh, and the next thing is like analysis paralysis. When the story isn't clear, people hesitate. And even when the insight exists, the decision stalls because the narrative isn't clear enough to inspire the confidence. Uh, and uh, uh, and in a fast-paced business, model slowdown are often as damaging, and it is also led to wrong decision making. So this is the current challenge we face in the real world. So here in this slide, we are going to talk about visualization where clarity meets the impact. And as we all know, visualization is a bridge between the raw data and human understanding. And even the well-designed visualization reduces the cognitive load and accelerate comprehension and reveals pattern. Uh, and people would never catch in a table. Currently, like here, we are talking about three colors: clarity to design, impact on action, and universal language, right? So whenever we are trying, first I will cover the clarity to design. The design of visualization is not a decoration as we think through, right? It's like how we communicate to the stakeholders. Even the great data design highlight and the story that we are going to tell. For example, like even like color, spacing, chart type, hierarchy, all determines how quickly your audience grasps the insights. And the next one is related to impact on action. When stakeholders understand the insight instantly, then they can act uh, and make the decisions. Think about, like, for example, like let's think about a real world scenario. Like for example, like if you think about reading through a 15-row table versus seeing one line chart, it's going to tell the real story, right? It's going to create an impact on what you are trying to convey to the users. And the other thing is, like as we know now, like the dashboards or the reports that are being built needs to be used across the globe, and we would like to speak kind of a language which is can be communicated to across the globe. And data visualization is one of the few things everyone, executives, engineers, or whoever, right, can understand. And good visualization remove any kind of a technical barriers, and it also aligns the cross-functional teams around a shared view of reality. um, so basically, like the best visualizations don't just present the data and the statement at the bottom, right? They illuminate meaning, spark conversation, and inspire informed action for every organization. So here in this story, like as you see, like I am covering two sides, right? One is like the art and the science aspect of it. Uh, and someone who is into this data visualization world, right? Or whoever is developing the dashboards, we need to have the two sides of it. One is like the art and the science, where the art is going to create the emotional connection and the science is going to have the credibility and precision. Uh, Coming to the art, we spend most of the time we craft narratives that resonate with the audience. That's a aspect which like we need to have the two aspects of it, uh, and which is going to create long lasting impacts on the presentation that is being built. And also like empathy towards like why it is being built. And also we design with the psychology in mind, how people pursue, remember, and interpret the information. Whereas the science is going to cover exactly whether the data is accurate, whether the uh, the methods that are used are statistically valid, and being precise and transparent about uncertainty, and grounding everyone about the evidence, right? So those are the four aspects of it. And one cannot succeed with only one side of it. I think that's what it's happening in most of the scenarios. And also, like if you see science without art, or art without science, if we like, it's going to lead to like a kind of a incomprehensible kind of a visualization that is going to be developed. And we can influence the partners when we combine both the art and the science, and which is going to be emotionally meaningful. So this one talks about like a complex data to clear narratives. So once we cover the art and science aspect of it, this one primarily covers about like primarily the three pillars, turning the complex analysis into story people can follow and act on. So primarily you need to understand your audience and what's the core message and the structure of journey. When you understand the message, so based on the type of audience, the narrative has to be changed. Whereas like, for example, if you are presenting something to an executives, they want the outcomes, whereas managers want something different, and technical teams want to know how you arrived and what kind of tools, frameworks you use to arrive to the solution. So based on the audience, based on who you're dealing with, the story and the narrative has to be changed, and one size doesn't fit for all the audience. And the next thing is like find the core message. Every analysis that is being dealt, no matter what, how complex, you need to have like ask yourself like has a central insight. Like what 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 is the one thing that audience must remember if they want to retain the message from the entire presentation, right? So you need to have the core message that you are trying to build upon when you are trying to narrate a complex story and then delivering to the stakeholders. And then the structure the journey, basically like what problems are we exploring and what does the data reveal, and why it is important, right? And resolution without an action, and what action or a decision does the data suggest, right? That's the primarily resolution is. And the structure make it easy for audience to follow the logic and feel confident in the conclusion. This slide talks about primarily the communication strategies that convert insight into influence. So here we are talking about the 4 strategies consistently elevate the impact of your data. So first thing is like lead with the conclusion, use analogies, quantify the business impact, anticipate the objections. The first one, lead with the conclusion. Executives don't want primarily suspense, right? They primarily seek clarity on what we are trying to build. And so basically like we need to start with an answer and then show the supporting data that is used to build it, the data, build the dashboards or the visualizations. And this helps to build the confidence and prevent kind of a misinterpretation. And next one is related to analogies and metaphors. Uh, this primarily helping the bridging the gap between the technical concepts and everyday understanding. For example, like leaking a bucket of communication instantly without explanation will confuse the audience. Uh, and the business always need like what's the business impact and what's the driving force, right? And like why we are building it and what problem we are trying to address. The I covered in the earlier slide. We need to translate the insights whatever we are building, like what's the return on investment and what's the dollars that are being saved, time saved, and what's the end user experience. Primarily like for any investment that is being done, it will be measured into the dollars, and are we improving something or are we solving something. And we need to understand the stakeholders and the value that we are being bring into the table is really important from the business impact standpoint. Next one is anticipate objections. And we need to proactively acknowledge the limitations or alternatives. And as we all know, there will be limitations, and we need to acknowledge those limitations. And we need to be a trustworthy partner. And this way, we can build a relationship between the business and the technology teams, and removes the hesitation. We have to build in such a way that they often feel comfortable, and then have like transparency between the business and the technology teams. So that's one thing, and we have to make sure that any limitations are communicated ahead of the time. Yeah, this talks about uh, currently, like as we all know, like we are in a world where the AI is driving the things. How does the AI come into play with respect to the data storytelling? And this slide primarily talks about like how do we use the AI tools for automated narrative generation and enhancing, personalizing the audience, and then enhancing the visual intelligence along with augmenting the human creativity. So with AI coming into play, AI is reshaping on how we analyze the data and how we communicate it. That's an important aspect of it. And automated narrative generation. Here in this case, AI, for example, like we do have like agentic AI, and then like everyone might have used ChatGPT or Copilot, where you provide a content, then it provides the summary, or like if you upload any kind of a document, if you kind of high level summary, you can summarize it. Similarly, when we talk about automated narrative generation, AI can now summarize the dashboards and then surface anomalies and generate the data narratives automatically. Um, this helps to remove the manual reporting work and ensure consistency. Uh, and this also helps to drive the automatically identifying trends and key insights at a scale. And next thing is like personalization for audience. Uh, so with the personalization, AI tools can help to adjust the language, depth and tone depending on who is reading the insights. As we spoke right now, we are talking about the global audience, and we can have the dashboards developed in such a way it can be personalized based on the audience we're dealing with. And this will help to accelerate the communication and also keep stakeholders engaged. And the next thing is about enhancing the visual intelligence. Um, AI can also help to recommend the chart types, and also like based on the audience, we can take the help of AI to choose the color palettes and also optimize the layouts for seeking the clarity. And this will help the storytelling more accessible to the non-designers as well. And the next one is augmenting human creativity. AI frees up analysts from repetitive tasks. We have to use AI to do the repetitive tasks, and whereas like with human in loop, human need to focus on interpretation and then like and also create an strategic meaning. Uh, we can use AI for expanding or enhancing the storytelling with human in loop, without losing the human creativity. It shouldn't be like we shouldn't directly take an output. If you are presenting something to executives without human in loop, we can't take the output from AI and directly consume it whenever you are present to the leadership team, right? So it's AI will be there, but it's not like where humans needs to be replaced. AI needs to be used so that we can enhance the storytelling, and it should be always done with human in loop. So this one talks about the ethics of data storytelling. Here we have like 4 buckets: context matters, acknowledge uncertainty, resist cherry picking, and consider the human impact. Whenever we are trying to tell a great story, it comes with like great story only comes uh, with power, comes with responsibility. And with respect to the context matters, uh, always provide context percentages without numbers and misleading, and acknowledge uncertainty, confidence intervals, margin of errors, and the sampling limitation. These are the signs of integrity, not the weakness. Resist cherry picking. Only showing the data that supports your narrative may lead to poor decisions and erode the long-term trust. Consider human impact. Um, Data influences real people, customers, employees, and communities. As storytellers, we have an ethical duty to communicate responsibly, especially when decisions have a significant consequences. Yeah, this one primarily is talking about your path forward. This slide mainly lays out about 3 habits that will help to grow into a strong data storyteller. So basically like practice deliberately, which talks about like choose one analysis per week and turn into narratives. We need to experiment with the different structures, visualizations, and storytelling techniques. And the second one is seek feedback. Primarily, you need to test your stories and with multiple audience. What is an obvious to an engineer may not be confusing to an engineer, and that's the reason storytelling improves dramatically when you iterate based on the real reactions. Uh, Balancing art and science, uh, and rigor without clarity doesn't create a value. Clarity also without rigor also create a risk. Primarily, we power comes in integrating both. The goal is not just present to data; it is to influence the decisions. So ultimately, like what we are trying to convey is like data storytelling is ultimately about turning the information into influence. When we combine these rigorous analysis with clear human-centered narratives, we bridge the gap between the insight and action. We not only help to understand the data, we empower them to make confident and meaningful decisions. So primarily, I think that's at a high level. I mean, like now I will open the floor for questions. Uh, so that's at a high level. I think this talks about primarily like a high level approach on how we need to do the data storytelling and like what are the different aspects of it. I kept it short considering the session and the audience. So yeah, Chris, back to you on the with respect to the questions.
Awesome. There wasn't many, or there wasn't any questions in the chat at the time, but it was good to see that balance, as you said, with what AI can do for you and stuff like that as well. Any questions from the audience at all? That was a good presentation because you're talking about AI and obviously the risks of AI and a few things like that as well.
Yeah, primarily, I think there is a lot of discussion about like how AI is going to shape up the data, right? In the data world, there is a lot of ambiguity in our organization. Primarily, we are using AI for a few things, right? For ETL task automation and all. We are not yet there on how we need to use AI for building the reports and dashboards. But anything on the ETL side and automation, it is being reviewed so that like if there are any workflows that are being executed, if we need to automate the workflows, and then like data reconciliation needs to happen, then we are using AI to some extent using the LLMs. But now there is a discussion about the agentic AI, where agentic AI, what it does is primarily instead of human in loop, if you need to perform a certain task like a workflows, it not only corrects it, it updates what needs to be done by looking into like the data sets and then automate those workflows with no human intervention. So like there are POCs being done, how agents can be used now. And how this all will be adapted to the data aspect of it. Visualization aspect is the other thing. So primarily we can take the help of AI for like enhancing the storytelling and then take the feedback and then see like based on the audience we can frame up the story, because AI doesn't know like who are the audience and all. It can tell you, but you have to like always have a human in loop while that narrative is being portrayed.
Yeah, and that's an interesting perspective because the clients that I deal with, they're looking at AI a lot on the front end, and they would not trust AI to do ETL and scheduling on the back end. You know, if the ETL process is solid, and it might be me as well. I'm not quite there yet on how AI can play a role in ETL. Like it's got to be the same thing all the time. But I'm sort of leaning on, yes, AI can play a role in that, in the user interface, because that's, as you were saying, it's interpretation. It's getting the global story. It's more localizing it to the context of who you're talking to. What are you talking to at what level in the organization?
Exactly. But I am hearing from other organization, right? One thing is about ETLs, and like even for there are use cases. For example, in our organization, we get like a lot of resumes for a given job requisition, right? Like you might have like one position, but you get like thousands of resumes. But when we have a recruiter, the recruiter is not going to look into all the 1,000 resumes to pick a correct candidate. So he might pick like first 5 candidates, and first 5 resumes are good. Then he do that skill matching, and then pick like he doesn't look into the other profiles, right? With the AI, I think what we can do is like we can do some kind of a like skill matching with the job requisition, and then like pick the right resume, then have like a recruiter again do a cross verification. So there are few advantages of some of these use cases. So we have to pick and choose, right? But is it it might create some bias, right? So there will be always like pros and cons. If the AI model is built in such a way that needs to be picked by like certain based on the gender, based on like a certain race. So those are all the other things, caveats of it. With the right balance, I think we have to see. And also like one use case might not fit for everyone based on the type of use case, based on the organization you are working. You have to choose the use case and then implement accordingly. And the other thing is like it's not like we shouldn't run towards implementing the AI, right? As you mentioned, because there is a lot of cost associated. Return on investment is one thing which business is going to look. What's the return on investment? Because in our organization we have used like Copilot and others, but are we adding a lot of value? Maybe not, right? It's going to enable the users on how you perform the things, but can we replace it is a question still.
Yeah, and I think the jury's still out on exactly where that goes. Going.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, slight change in tack, but just kind of coming to there's a bit on that slide you've got there, Naveen, that kind of resonated with me particularly, and it's that. So what resonates with engineers may confuse executives. Can you talk a little bit about how you might change your data storytelling depending on the audience?
So, like for example, you are developing a complex dashboard, right? And you would like to explain to the engineer how you arrived it, right? Then you will be explaining to them like what is the data set, right? And where is the data sourced, and using how the data is sourced, then you also tell like how the data model is built, right? So he needs to understand for each metrics, he needs to understand how it is derived. Is the data sourced from the right place for building this dashboard? Is it is an authorized data source? Is the right data is used to build it? Is the metrics, the calculation as per the business specification document, is the calculations are done in the right way? So we will look into the data in those aspects of it, right? So when you are telling and dealing with the engineers, he will be asking those questions. But when you are presenting to the executives, he is not going to read line by line item. He is going to check like what was my employee retention before the COVID versus employee retention now, retention rate? Is it drastically increased or is it drastically reduced? And how does the headcount look when we compare the trends for past 5 or 10 years? So you need to build the story accordingly. We can't have like a same story resonating to the engineers, right? For the engineers, they go into the details. Does it reconcile when it compare from past month to current month? Is the numbers matching? If the numbers are not matching, like where is the gap? But the executives doesn't have a time to go and look into the numbers and deal with the raw data. So we need to derive the numbers, right? The metrics, so that like if the news is going on a Wall Street, like we are doing like a 15% headcount cut, just they give that headline, right? But to derive that one insight, there is a lot of work that happen, like what's the current head count looks like, and then within that head count, like are we affecting any kind of a gender as a result of doing the 15% cut? So there is a lot behind it to derive one particular statement. That's what it meant. The story and the narrative is going to change based on who the audience are.
That's great. Thank you.
I don't think there's any other questions. There's nothing in the chat, so we'll move on. But again, there's, if people think about questions in the next few minutes, we've got a few minutes left. Here's Naveen's contact details. So just on LinkedIn, if you want to connect with him there. And we'll move on to Fast 5. So as most people say, and I explained this at the start as well, it's AI generated questions. So there you go, sort of in the theme of today. But quick questions, quick answers, Tableau related. It's more personal preference, so there's no right or wrong. It's what you think. But feel free to pass if you don't, or if you can't come up with an answer for them as well. So the first question is a dashboard finished when it works or when it feels right?
When it feels right.
Yep, that's cool. And is a dashboard more like a compass in guiding direction or more like a mirror in showing reality?
Mirror showing like a reality.
Yep. You can expand if you want to, but that's okay.
Okay.
Yeah. And do you like using containers or do they drive you crazy?
They drive me crazy because I think sometimes it is helpful and sometimes it drives crazy. So it's based on the use case. So
Yep.
like I have done like a different tools. I started with the Siebel Analytics and then Oracle acquired. Then we did the like Oracle BI, and then from Oracle BI we moved to MicroStrategy, and then from MicroStrategy we have a combination of Altics and Tableau along with the MicroStrategy. So based on the tool, it drives crazy also. Some of them, like some tools avoids the containers, so it's not right or wrong. And to most part, like based on the different tools I worked, yes, it does sometimes drive crazy.
Yep, no, that's cool. And do you believe a dashboard should explain itself or invite exploration?
Explain itself. I think that's the narrative of this one, right? With quick insights based on the type of audience, we need to build a dashboard. By looking into if you are providing some insight to the leadership team, I think leaders doesn't have a time. They quickly scan the numbers and metrics and see whether it is self-explainable, right? And as we know, like we build like multiple, like a given workbook or a given dashboard, we build like multiple data sets. Does it does everyone look into the detail? Like how often you think that everything will be reviewed, right? Very few, right? Like if we have hundreds of dashboard, if you run the usage metrics, like we see like a very few frequently used dashboards. Remaining all is there, but yeah, I feel like it should be self-explanatory so that like they don't need to explore everything.
Yep, no, that's cool. That's good. And finally, do you prefer showing labels always or only on hover?
Based on the use case, it's not right or wrong. Yes, right. Based on the use case, it differs. But I would prefer showing labels.
Yep.
Because sometimes a hover is irritating.
Yeah.
And using hover, and we again go to a drill down, and like we have done those type, right? We hover and then we go into the drill down and then goes into the other reports.
Yep. Yep. No, that's cool. Thank you for that. That was a 5. That was pretty easy. So the next session is Andy Holt. He's in the room as well, talking about choose your own adventure self-service report builder the zero viz way. It looks like we've sort of got this theme lately of zero vizzing and stuff like that. But what's that? In 2 days' time from now? Not quite, just a little bit less than that. All one meeting, all the same time, QR code, it's on the website, etc. Andy, do you want to pitch it while you're here?
I think, yeah, you have done. You've got all the information there. It's a bit of a case study working through something I built in a previous role. A kind of looking at data modeling in another way in Tableau, but hopefully it'll be, yeah, interesting.
It sounds good. Anyway, that's good. But if today's Tuesday, then it's Thursday. If today is still Monday in some places, then it'll be Wednesday. Sorry, we can't cater for the whole world, as we were joking before, but Europe gets the short straw this time as well. But this recording and every other thing we do with this tug and a whole heap of other tugs is on the Team DataFam channel on YouTube. There's also a audio podcast on Spotify and Apple. And if you need to get in touch, it's just team.datafam@gmail.com. And I think I've ruined these slides because the one more thing, sorry, before we do that, thank you, Naveen, for that presentation. That was awesome. It was good to see your take on that and how you've sort of sprinkled AI through that and how we should be careful with those things as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. If there are any other ways that I can contribute, yeah. I mean, like, it's really helpful, right? The questions are also good.
Awesome. And this is where I'm going to cut this bit out because I think the next slide is this. We're out of IronViz season, right? It's dead. I just forgot to cut those slides out. So we'll skip this one. We'll skip this one. And if you didn't know, there's a Tableau hackathon going on, so you can actually get into this hackathon. It's fairly easy. There's a few forms to fill out, and you get a free everything: Salesforce, Data Cloud, Tableau Next, Tableau Cloud. Everything you need is free to build some awesome thing to participate and actually win these prizes. All those dollars are in US dollars as well. But between now and the 12th of January, come up with an idea, build it, you can win prizes as well. There's more details on the next page about how you ask for Q&A. It's in the Slack channels. There's a whole heap of resource guides. There's meetings, there's recordings, there's a whole heap of stuff. I was in a meeting earlier today where we were just throwing around ideas and, you know, can Salesforce do this if we do these sorts of things? All good stuff, all interesting. You know, you win prizes. You can actually make a team of up to 5 people, or you can just do it on your own if you want to as well. But that's it. There's no other questions. That's the end of the meeting for today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks for your time, Naveen. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Naveen.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon. Okay. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.